live. Going live. Oh my goodness. Did I get on finally? Oh my goodness. I got on finally. I had been trying for at least 45 minutes to get on. And not only that, we've had quite the adventure this morning. We couldn't even watch videos on YouTube. So here I am. And I have a lot to talk about today. Yes, I am baking bread right now, so I'm going to talk about that first to get that out of the way and to let YouTube's algorithm do what it's going to do. What you need to know about baking here in Costa Rica, hey nitwit, is that you have to start with warm ingredients, but at the same time, baking bread here is a challenge. I keep my yeast and my flour in the freezer, so I have to get out and nuke the flour to get it to the right temp, because if you don't have warm enough flour, the yeast does not work, even if it is kept in the freezer and then taken out. It is a mess. When you first move to Costa Rica, you're going to say it is so hot. Hey, Maria. Hey, nitwit. You're going to say it's so hot that you will never bake another loaf of bread or another cake again. But when you get about the 2 to 3 year mark and you're so used to the heat that it just feels normal, guess what? If you're a baker, you're going to start baking again. It really makes me laugh. The reason that I'm baking right now and I'm baking my own bread is because I am having asthmatic problems. And the easiest way to deal with that is to just stop anything that is even remotely pre-made, and that includes bread. So that's why I'm doing this. When I was a kid, I ate an endless amount of rice. I don't care at all for the allergen diet where they have you eat rice, butter, lamb, and what was the other one? Garlic. I've just eaten so much rice that I'm just over that. So I try not to ever go on that unless I'm absolutely forced to, because I have severe asthma sometimes with processed foods. So that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. The main thing that I wanted to talk about today, well, there's a bunch of main things. Has everybody seen Shani? I had no idea what Shani was. I'd heard of mukbang, but I had not taken a look at what Shani was until today after she lost her YouTube channel. And one of my friends was talking about it, and I was like, when I started looking. Yeah. I can understand that, nitwit, because when I lived in Germany, in a very cold part of Germany, we'd be snow on the ground and we'd go out and eat ice cream at the ice cream parlor, which seems kind of counterintuitive, but hey, it is what it is, and it is what you have in your area and what's available. So Shani, I looked at Shani, and I'm just horrified. I know once upon a time that Andy Warhol said that everybody would have 15 minutes of fame in the future. I can't for the life of me understand how that's actually a fetish for people, the whole mukbang thing. I guess it's rule 34 of the internet. If there's a fetish, there's going to be some kind of, I'm not going to say prawn for it. There's always going to be some kind of product, some type of product to satisfy that need. And every time my innocent self actually falls into that and looks at it and goes, oh, I always regret it. I would be much better off sometimes without the internet, because then I wouldn't have to look at this stuff. So I wish Shani well. I wish some mental health services for her from what I've saw and what I've observed and all things I read through. The other thing I want to talk about is something I call Surrender Dorothy. I wish I could throw the picture up here. Living in the Washington, D.C. area and going to my pulmonologist and allergist and all that crap, and my therapist, my occupational therapy therapist in Baltimore Bayview. And at one point I was going 3 times a week, and that's quite the drive from where I was in Virginia. It was about a 2.5 hour ride each way. There is a part of the Beltway where you pass it, the Washington, D.C. Beltway at 495. It's a big circle that goes around the city. For those of you who have not been to D.C., it's a big circle. There's a part near the Washington area Mormon temple where there is a railroad bridge that for many years people would spray paint on there, "Surrender Dorothy." So every time I talk about the Mormons, I just go off on "Surrender Dorothy" because where that was painted on this railway bridge, you could look through the railway bridge and you could see the Mormon temple and just laugh, laugh, laugh. I'll have to put the picture of that up in, I guess, in post because I do have a picture of it. It's actually pretty damn funny. So anyway, yesterday or the day before, sometimes recently, I don't remember exactly when because I don't watch her content, without a box of Kleenex, started sounding off about the Mormon religion. And I have to dispute one of her points. She said that African American men were not allowed to ever be, or black men or men of color were never allowed to be priesthood holders and go in the temple. I don't know where homegirl has been all this time, maybe sleeping under a rock. I don't know. But that's not true. In 1978, the head of the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, I can't remember which dude it was, he said that he had had new divine revelation that African Americans, blacks, were allowed to be priesthood holders and they were allowed to access the temple. That was a pretty big moment because Mormonism had been pretty hardcore. Hey, do good letters. Mormonism had been pretty hardcore stuck in extreme racism. For a long time, they were even promoting the view that blacks should be slaves. They were promoting the view that they had lesser intelligence. They said that they had forfeited any godliness, unfortunately. And they really believed that for a long time. 1978 is when that changed, and blacks were allowed to join and be priesthood holders and go into the temple unimpeded. I don't know why the information never gets around to her about these different religions, but it seems like she will just seize upon one thing and get completely wrong, and that was one of them. There are at least 4 large temples in Africa right now, and the majority of the stakeholders are black. And there's a lot of African American, African, and every other people of color that are now members of the Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ. I think that's what they call it. More caffeine. So she gets that it's very fundamentally wrong, like so many other things that she does. So, of course, I have to say a little something about that. I also have to talk about another very unpleasant subject today that I don't really like talking about. Hey, Christoph. Um, Yesterday was my birthday. And I was stuck at home because we're under a beer virus restrictions here. Can't drive our car, but about 3 times a week. The rest of the time is forbidden. Yesterday was a forbidden time, so I couldn't even go anywhere. My husband had taken me out the day before, and we walked the beach. He bought me these lovely blue opal and silver earrings that I wanted. We went out and had a fabulous meal at the Surf Shack in Tamarindo. Has the best burgers, homemade onion rings, and just the food is fabulous. And while it's not the most elegant of surroundings, it is very comfortable. It's a great hangout spot. I love that place. If you come to Tamarindo, have a meal there and ask for Brian. He's the owner. Um, Thank you. Thank you, word puzzle specialist and do good letters. So yesterday was my birthday and I was at home. Like I said, we celebrated the day before because of the beer virus restrictions. And it turned into the most stressful day. Why? Not people wishing me happy birthday. That was fine. I had people doing trauma dumps on me all day long. Now I know that because I wrote for NLQ for over 10 years, well, for nearly 10 years, not over 10 years. What am I thinking? And have been involved in the recovery recovery, I guess you'd say community. Hey, T King, thank you. Thank you, Maria. Um, because I've been getting involved in that. Some people will show up and tell me their trauma. And most of the time, that's all well and good. And I have no problem with that. Yesterday, since I've been having this terrible asthma since Sunday and I'm still having it, but I'm better. Um, Thank you, Christoph. I had a lot of people showing up to do trauma dumps, and it was just not the day to do it. I had one person that I talked to for over 2 hours. I spent the day I spent the day playing an unpaid head shrinker, and it was definitely not what I wanted to do. And I actually turned a number of people away. So I'm just saying I'm going on a trauma dump fast right now. It's not that I don't care about your stories. I do care about your stories. I care about your stories. I care about you. But with the asthma going on, I have to save my strength for the things that I must do. I'm waiting right now to hear what my husband is coming back from the church and saying he has a meeting at the church, like he has every Thursday morning. We're leaving our church because of what happened Sunday when they triggered my asthma yet again, online and on the phone. Word puzzler. The online ones are okay because I can just ignore that and put that off and answer them in a day or two when I am able to compose myself enough to listen to their stories. And that's fine. I don't mind the online ones. But I had a lot of people that reached out yesterday using Facebook, telephone, or video, and my Skype number. And it just became overwhelming for me. So probably for the end of this week, probably until Monday or Tuesday, I'm just not going to deal with it because I just don't have the energy right now. It involves even active listening involves a sort of energy, and I'm just at the point where I just can't do it right now. And I respect your stories. I think they're awesome. I'm happy that you trust me with them. But I was pretty much broken by the time I ended the 2 hour one yesterday. Not really doing missionary work here, Christoph. It's a second world country, but like where I am is the most wealthy part of the entire nation. It's the Gold Coast. It's expensive to live here. Um, there's not a lot of need for missionary work here. Everybody here who's local is Catholic, almost to a man. And when I see these missionary groups come here, usually what happens is they will go do some little thing like we had a group that was here recently that were building a church for a friend of mine who used to go to church with us where we were, who's now spun off and he's doing his own church in Santa Rosa. He's building a church. So the group came to build the church, and here's what they do when they come for these mission trips. And they do things like build a church or clean up the beach. They work 3 or 4 hours maybe, and then they go to the beach. Or you see them in the coffee shops and you're annoyed because you're trying to get your coffee and they're in there glomming all the free Wi-Fi. I have nothing against mission trips. All I will say is please make sure there's a need for where you're going. The church I used to be a part of, my old Quiverful church, the mission trips meant to going to Haiti or Africa into some really extremely poverty-stricken areas and doing work that helped. I'm all in favor of that. I'm not in favor of having a bunch of teenagers come here so they can be at the beach half the day. That's not a mission trip. That's a missioncation. So I'm not a big lover of that, but I'm waiting to hear from my husband what the church has to say about my leaving, because I reached out to a friend of mine who's on the board and said, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I'm leaving. I want you to know. And she told me that the board didn't know anything about it, that the board VP that I had spoken to again and again and again as I was having these severe asthma attacks had not mentioned once to the board that this was going on. So she pretty much just straight up lied to me, which is more reason why I should just leave, besides the fact that they had decided to Word puzzle, you're right about that. You're very right about that. So they had decided to allow this woman with her emotional support animal to be in there, even though it was making me sick as a dog. So that tells me it's not a safe place to be. I tried to tell the board that, well, I did tell my friend on the board that the ADA Association in the States isn't even allowing people with emotional support animals to fall under the rules of ADA because so many of them have exploited that loophole for many years and just made it really miserable for so many people who actually do have a need for rescue dogs and people who need to have a controlled area like I do. I have big time have that need because of the asthma. And the last pastor understood that. This lady doesn't. Heck with her. But Jim's at a meeting there right now, and I'm waiting to hear because he's been there 2.5 hours now, which tells me something. It's probably not going well. And I'm curious to see what they said to him, whether they're even acknowledging that there was any kind of problem. I'm very curious about that. Church culture is the most strange and highly regimented thing as far as like factions and politics and all that. Things that should not take place in a church all the time, they do. And that really disgusts me. I'd rather stay here in the Church of the Holy Basement. But my husband's picked out another church for us to go to. I don't know that I will go very long because that church seems like, from where I'm seeing, I'm not liking them much. I've heard some of their sermons and things. So we'll see. I'll go to make him happy a few times and we'll see. But I think it's going to be Church of the Holy Basement here. So, okay, the last item on my agenda today that I really wanted to talk about was Tina and Erin's live stream last night. If you've been part of the community, you would have noticed this last, especially like week and a half. It is a business. You're right, Amy. The church is a business. The last week and a half has just been kind of crazy in the creator community. Yeah, no one can judge you in the Holy Basement. You are exactly right. Nobody. Even though I don't have a basement, so I guess I'm going to have to go the holy church of the guest house, I guess, because I can always go in there and pretend I'm in church. Erin did this video last night and talking about the drama that has been going on in the last couple of weeks. And she brought receipts. I stand with Erin. I'm just going to say that right now. It's probably going to cost me some viewers, but I stand with Erin. I've talked to Ren. I've expressed my dislike for some of the things that he said. He is willing to talk. I will say that. What that means for the community, if he's open to change, I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means. But I do know that Erin asked the important question that all of us are wondering about. Why is it not okay to judge Charlotte by the same standards that the rest of us are being judged by? It's a real problem in the community that sometimes things seem to spin off into a bite model CULT in various groups. I've just kind of sat back and watched and haven't said a whole lot about it. I actually wrote a lengthy article for a mental health online journal about this situation and about the KJ Truthers and how the group has splintered without saying who it was even. I mentioned no names and used one of the pseudonyms on that article and spoke no names, but talked about the whole philosophy of the group thing and how it splinters. And because I've seen this in Quiverful too. I've seen this in Quiverful Survivors, where you start out with a big group and the group starts getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as people fight. And it keeps doubling down till at the very end, you have the really super toxic people who are like all the way in and aren't trying to cooperate with anyone. It's a problem. Welsh Rose, I'm not going to fight with you about any of this because I'm not fighting with anybody about any of this. Angela, I'm just going to refer you to the video last night. I'm not even going to talk about that aspect of it. There's just been a lot of very toxic things going on in various factions of the KJ Truthers movement. And that's unfortunate. I would like to not see this just spiraling down into this tight little thing until everybody in there is just a few true believers. You don't understand? I'm going to refer you back to the video last night because I think it was pretty clear what Tina and Erin had put together. And I haven't shared with Tina yet the article that I wrote about the whole thing in early April about the community and the splintering of the community and the things that are going on and how that plays into the psychology of the group. Anytime you have a group, whether it be survivors, KJ truthers, dog rescue, I've seen this go on in so many different communities through the years. It was intense, Christoph. I couldn't even watch all of it. Well, some of it was because I had horrible internet here last night, which translated into horrible YouTube this morning, which I've tried repeatedly. I had to keep fooling with the router to make that stop. It was just, yeah, I still haven't seen the whole thing. I've got to go back and watch the last so many minutes because I think it was around midnight when my router crapped out and I was just exhausted. I just went to bed. Angela, no, I didn't see Little Reds. No, I don't have time to watch everybody, unfortunately. Real entertainment news. I am making white bread. I know that sounds horrible. I usually only eat whole wheat. But when the asthma gets like this, I have to have the fewest number of ingredients. It has to be right up there with simple things. It has to be homemade, and then I can eat it. It happens in special needs community too. Angelman syndrome has two main organizations. One came from a split from the first one. If a parent supports one organization, they get scolded. Yeah, it's kind of like here. And that's like in Quiverful when I started seeing the survivors, the fights we call survivor wars there. We had a group of children of Quiverful that were just not going to accept anything except total capitulation to what they believed the problem was. And they wanted to blame the parents. Well, I don't know whether the parents are truly responsible for everything that they were saying or not. I didn't join Quiverful until I was in my 30s. My children didn't get totally raised in it. My middle child was 18 and my youngest was 14 when we left, and we all deconverted pretty quickly. I love challah bread. It's my favorite. I wish I could get it. Nothing beats it. Yeah, I agree. I would have that. That's my favorite. I have to look up a recipe for that. I just do King Arthur's basic white bread when I'm wheezing like this. I can have that and have no problems. I can have rice and have no problems. Handful of other things. Angelman syndrome. Oh, thank you. I'm glad I did do good because it's one of those things that I keep seeing happening again and again and again. And I've seen it happen enough where I try not to ever get drug into it now when I see it. I just kind of send off to the side and twiddle my thumbs because it's familiar, unfortunately. Do good letters. The problem with rice is I ate so much of it as a child with my asthma and being a Cajun. We eat rice with everything. I just reached the place where I'm just kind of burned out. I have to be really in a mood to eat rice. And that's bad because if you're doing the allergens diet, it's rice-based. So my husband has seen me doing that and seen me just shoveling the rice in and going, oh, more rice. More rice, more rice, more rice. I would love that, Nitwit. I would love that because there's nothing I like better than challah bread. You can do that. You ever make challah bread? Yeah, 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 yeah. It will change your life. I know. Um, fresh bread is everything. I made a loaf at 9 p.m. last night, and it's three-quarters of the way eaten, and it wasn't all me eating on it. I had two slices, and I think my husband ate quite a bit. So we're back to making bread again. When the asthma eases, I'll start doing other kinds of bread, and I'll start doing. I've got some dark rye flour that I need to use. I'll start doing whole wheat too. Cajun food. I am all about Cajun food. I used to be. Brioche. The last time I had brioche bread, it triggered me. There was something in it. But I don't know if that was because it was pre-made or not. There's certain kinds of breads and bakeries that I have to stay away from even here. There's a lovely German bakery I love on the way to the airport. But I have to be really careful what kind of bread I get there because some of their bread triggers my asthma just right quick. Their sourdough does, and I can eat most of the time I can eat commercially made sourdough bread without having any problem. And I haven't set up sourdough starter here yet, but I may have to do that because it's one of my favorites. It's really good. So anyway, now you've heard my thoughts on all of this. I'm going to leave a few links below to things like to Erin's live last night. And I'm trying to go watch the end of it myself. And I got to put my bread in the oven. I got to wait for my husband to see what the church said. I've already talked to a close friend of mine who lives a couple blocks down that goes to the church we're going to be going to. Nitwit, that sometimes happens. If I'm going to react to a bread, it is going to be a whole wheat one first. Is your asthma the same in the States as where you live now? No. No, no, no. My asthma is much better here, and I still have it. The difference between my asthma here and my asthma in the States is my asthma in the States right up until I started getting Xolair injections. My husband can tell you I was in the ER 3 to 4 times a week with the EpiPen hanging out of my leg. That's how severe it was. That was before I got the mast cell diagnosis, and I got my Xolair injections. The Xolair injections were helpful because they brought my IgE levels down from 27,000 to around 100, which is where they should be. I haven't had it measured in a while, so I don't know if it's up or what. But here, I know exactly what time of the year I'm prone to it. I'm prone to it in early June through July because that's when rainy season starts getting going good, and there's a lot of fungus, there's a lot of mold, and then the Sahara dust hits from the Sahara Desert. We get that hard here, much harder than we did in the U.S., and that's a complicating factor for me. So all of those things hit. Also, the other bad time for me here is usually March. Usually right as it's switching over, I'll react too. Oh, real entertainment news. I'm sorry. Bread is life. I liked Erin's live last night because I thought she was bringing up some very valid points. I wish we could just put a moratorium on using the word sad fish because it's been used in toxic ways throughout the community. And some people, I'm not going to say names, there are some people that have overused it and have really turned it into this toxic buzzword. The second I hear it, I just roll my eyes and go, oh, get me out of here. I'm not sad fishing. I'm reluctant to even mention when I'm having a bad mast cell time because I don't want to be accused of sad fishing. And I really am usually, well, if you saw me Sunday, you saw that I was really struggling on Sunday. Even when I'm having my problems, like right now, I'm usually in a pretty good mood, unless I'm right in the middle of it hard. And that's about the only time. Tina is an amazing speaker, Christoph. I really like Tina. Tina is somebody that I do talk to on a regular basis, and we've talked a fair amount about KJ, she was one of the people that reached out to me when it all went down, and KJ stood me up and then lied about it. And then I found out she'd been stealing my content. I was crushed. I was crushed when she stood me up. It hurt. It hurt, especially because it was this time of the year and I was having bad asthma and I had to push a ton of meds. A Gillian's Island trip. Got stung by a bee. Oh. I am so sorry, B. I'm sorry you lost a child, because I think that's possibly one of the worst pains you could ever experience. Getting stung by a bee is really bad. I happen to be allergic to bee stings too. I mean, if I ever told you the allergy list is like this long. So when I start having things I can enjoy that don't have a lot of chemicals in them, I tend to hang on them hard, like this. I hate that this is. Let me see if I can, so you can see it. Mini sandwich ice cream by Dos Pinos. It's one of the few things here that is processed I can eat that doesn't seem to make my asthma go haywire. And so there's that. And here's what's really funny about yesterday's trauma dumps. I burned my birthday cake. I was baking during the worst of it when I was talking to somebody on the phone. I forgot about my birthday cake until my husband said, "What is that? That smells like it's burning. It smells like brownies that have gone too long." And I was like, "Oh no, it's my birthday cake." And I got out of there in a hurry, and it was too late. I'd burned it. And that's what I mean when I say nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. God knows I make a ton of them. Burning my birthday cake was one of them. Forgetting that when you bake bread here, you have to pre-warm your flour in the microwave. You have to pre-warm all your ingredients because you have to store them in the freezer. If you don't store your flour in the freezer, you're going to have bugs in it. So I have my freezer packed with a lot of those things to keep them out of bugs. And I forget when you make bread, you have to have everything warm. So yesterday was kind of an S show between all of that, between the bread making going haywire at first, burning my birthday cake, and just actually ran out of air yesterday. I just could not talk anymore. And here we are at 30 minutes. I should probably go. I'm rattling around. You guys have a wonderful day today. I am going to go fold clothes and try to watch Handmaid's Tale. Somebody pointed out that June 13th, thank you, that June 3rd was Bobby Joe Gentry's song, an ode to Billy Joe, that it said June 3rd. I may watch the horrible movie they made out of that song just for fun. I love horrible movies. Love them, love them, love them. You guys have a good day.